Have you ever been to a really fine restaurant and you happen to look at the dessert menu and you say, well, let me skip the main course and I want to start with dessert first? Well, that's the exact case with Velabon when we get into the interior. You've heard me say this many a times, and I'm going to say it again. What I'm saying? Videos and pictures do not do the color justice. So as you look at this color right now, you're saying, yeah, it's silver. It's a metallic silver. Well, actually, it's not. It's a metallic green. And as I'm standing here looking at it and the sun's coming through the trees, right here on the wing and right here on the side of the bonnet, it really truly is magical in the sense that you can see this green metallic with all of this metallic flake, but the green looks like it's under a sheet of glass. The clear coat is so thick and so perfect and everything is so smooth, and this green metallic is beautiful. But right here, it goes to a dark green, not a gray, but a dark, dark metallic green. For reference point, if you look behind me, which is Bleckmann, the two-door 110, that is a slate gray. That's gray. This is a green, and a beautiful green. This is a very unique green, a green that you will not see on another Defender. This is not a Land Rover color. This is a custom mixed color, and it's just spectacular. It has a military feel in a way, but it has a very elegant, timeless feel, and I think that's enough about color. But let's talk about the build quality when it comes to a Helderburg. And again, pictures and video do not do it justice. Just by looking at it, where the wing, you see all the parts on the wing fender. Here's one part, here's a second part, here's a third part. So you've got these three different body panels that come together. And if you were to look on, let's say, a Defender that's been restored from somewhere else, you will notice that there will be paint buildup through all of the cracks, and the lines will be off, because a lot of times what happens is when the paint goes on, they tape off the glass, or maybe they do pull the glass out, but they don't disassemble this wing, and this wing comes apart. And it's very important that you take it apart and you paint each part individually. But it is a metallic paint job, which takes a special process. So when you paint the parts individually, you have to set them up in such a way on a jig, in other words, a table, a holder, and you set it in such a way where you have the top part, the side part, and the front part, because as you're coming up and you're spraying, the metallic flake is laying down, and if you paint all of the parts separately, a discerning eye could see that the metallic flake could be laying different directions, and it's like a really bad suit where the lines don't match on the shoulders. So the paint, beautiful color, and the attention to detail, beautiful. Let's get into Velabon. Let's talk about the drivetrain. Drivetrain is a performance-tuned turbo diesel. This is not our Mark 3.5. It is, though, a performance-tuned diesel. Runs well, sounds great. You can take it on the highway. You can go wherever you want. It's enjoyable, and you would expect to get 28 to 32 miles per gallon. Moving across the front, you see something a little different. I mean, this is a bumper that I use a lot. Headlights are staple. The headlight surrounds are staple, which are billet aluminum. But instead of doing Defender, I did Land Rover on this one, just to mix it up a little bit and do something a little different. The grille, metal, made in Germany, and then of course the bump out, just to give a little more dimension, a little more design, and then of course the red tow hooks for a little splash of color. So what else can I tell you about the front? Well, let me tell you this, because I've had a number of people ask me, what is that under the windscreen? So right here, under the windscreen, these pop up. You have two levers, one on each side. This opens up and it creates fresh air. Talk about nostalgia. This is definitely nostalgia. I mean, I love that, especially this time of year right now. The windscreen is heated, so this would be the ideal winter vehicle too. So any ice or snow, flip the switch and it will melt that off perfectly. And then I'm excited to get into the interior, but let's just hold off before we do that. Let's talk about the stance. So moving over, you see a little bit of poke right here where the tire sticks out a little, just a little bit. You've heard me refer to a lift on other builds as a teenage boy lift. And what I mean by that is they didn't put all the proper parts in there to lift it safely and lift it properly. This is a Helderburg, so you know it's been lifted properly. And what I mean by that is whenever you lift a truck, you're turning the axles, you're turning the axle housings, so now your drive shafts are running at more of an angle because the drive shaft, prop shaft, is not long enough, so it's trying to reach. So everything's kind of twisted up. So a proper lift requires heavy-duty transmission, heavy-duty transfer case, proper gearing in the transmission, proper gearing in the front and rear differentials, proper radius arms. And the radius arms, what happens is it turns those axles back because they're about 3 degrees more of an arch and they're a little longer. Prop shafts, drive shafts, are a little longer, so then they're not being stretched. Brake lines are longer, so they're not being stretched. So everything is proper, and it makes it a really nice riding vehicle. Just because you lift it doesn't mean it has to ride poorly if you do the lift properly. It does have the anti-roll bars or anti-sway bars underneath it. So whenever you're driving on an on-ramp or off-ramp, you know, where it goes like this, it stays very flat versus a typical Defender. They don't do basically the anti-roll bars, the sway bars, and the body leans over, and it's really an eerie, uncomfortable feeling. Not on a Helderburg. It stays flat. It has that sports car feel. The arches are wider. These are not a standard arch, and it just kind of helps the stance. Wheels, custom, and they have the proper offset to get them out further, and so tires are not rubbing, but it just gives it a really good stance. This one does have the step-up bars. It has the Puma bonnet. We did not do the louvers in it like we normally do, so we kept everything clean. And again, this green with this black roof, it's beautiful as I'm looking at it and the sun coming through the trees. So what else can I tell you about the exterior? Because honestly, I'm really excited to get into the interior where the dessert's at. When was the last time you were comfortable putting a big dog on your interior? I hear that a lot from prospective clients. I'm like, oh, I have to be careful. And I will tell you, with a Helderburg leather, you do not need to be careful. We spent years finding the right tannery that could do the right grade of leather to fit into a Helderburg. Because I am an absolute dog lover, and I spend probably 75 to 85% of my time when I'm out and about with Lucy and or Leo. So I wanted a leather that was going to be thick enough to take the abuse from their nails. This leather is almost a boot leather. We're talking 5 to 6 ounce thick, when normal upholstery leather is around 2 ounces. So it's a much thicker leather for the durability, but it also gives you the smell that will be here forever. I mean, I can just smell this leather, and I could come back 5 years from now and it will still have that beautiful leather smell. The leather's from Scotland. Therefore, the cows that this leather is made from are not in barbed wire. So the perfection of this leather is the best of the best. In fact, I've got a client, he just recently took delivery of his Helderburg, and he also has a Bentley. And I told him, I said, the leather quality in a Helderburg is superior. And he said, sure enough, I can tell you it is. So let's specifically talk about the interior on Velabon here. It is perforated. The perforation doesn't serve any purpose other than just visual appeal to create the different textures and just make it really nice. Perforation is even on the door cards. It's down the center of the seats, the side of the seats, the center console. It just flows properly. We also did piping on the side of the seats to create that contrast. And right here, this is not black. This is a very dark saddle brown. And then we kept all of the stitching consistent. We didn't do a contrast stitch. We just kept it all matching, and it created a really nice effect on the door cards and also on the side. Up and down the center on the perforation, I went a little bit lighter on the stitching on the diamond just to create that caramel effect. Do you see the dessert starting to come to play here too? I wouldn't say this is a butterscotch. This is much more of a chocolate, like a light chocolate and a dark chocolate leather mixed together. And just the effect of it is beautiful. And then when you move to the headliner, it's Italian Alcantara suede, and it's also a chocolate color, just complements everything. And there's a lot of light in this cabin for the simple fact it has a single panoramic roof. So this glass roof is a 2-pane glass, and it will do well for a hot climate because it is tinted, but it does give enough light in the cabin to just brighten everything up. Everything's covered in leather, the A pillars, the B pillars, even all around the window surrounds in the back. Normally I do Alcantara suede, but in this one I did leather. This is a very high grade option by doing leather all around the window surrounds. And I'll say, look at some other Defenders out there and see if the attention to detail is as spot on as it is here. And I think you'll find out quickly it's not. The steering wheel, the wood steering wheel, it is a Modellita, and just seeing the process, the steering wheels are handmade. And when I say handmade, the wood is all done by hand, and it's just a magical thing to watch that there is a craftsman, an expert that is standing there with a chisel as this wood is spinning around on the lathe, and he's carving the perfection, the smoothness. And when you look at it, where you see the rivets that are in the steering wheel, you don't feel it. It is, I mean, it's like glass. It's so smooth. Again, everything's covered in leather, the upper dash, the lower dash, the air conditioning, the steering column, the fuse box in the center, the brake, everything. Heated seats. Carpet is a German weave. It's a square weave, and it's also bound in the leather from the seats. So it just creates a very nice complement. There is nothing that has been overlooked. Even the sun visors are all done in chocolate leather. So do you see the analogy to what I'm talking about when it comes to desserts? But this was a purpose-built vehicle. So let's move to the second row and talk about that, because you're going to see something that you've rarely seen in a Helderburg before. So this is a dog lover's Helderburg. Hence, I built this one for me because I wanted to take some trips, go out, do some pictures, and I want to do a photo book, and I'm going to be able to do that really soon. The problem is, though, I do a video like this showing one that was built for me, and then it sells instantly, really quick. But one thing I said that you really don't see this in the back of a Helderberg, and I'm talking about the second row seats. Normally I do the individual buckets. I do a bucket, center console for storage, and then another bucket. This one, I did a bench for the simple reason I wanted to create a nice platform for Lucy to be able to lay down comfortably and sleep, because that's what she seems to do when we go on a trip, is she sleeps until we stop. So bench seat, perforated, and it just has a really beautiful saddle color. And I've already pointed this out once, but I'm going to point it out again. So the rear pillar here, the top, the handles right here, this is all done in chocolate brown leather. So there's a tremendous amount of leather in this build, and I'll tell you what, you can really smell it. Even did the sliding windows, the cargo windows back here, and didn't do any tint. I just wanted everything to be very bright. Storage, you've seen me talk about this before, but on the backs of the front seats here, the driver and the passenger, is saddlebags. And then on the back of this bench seat is more saddlebags. And then on the very back door, which again is also covered in leather, and we're going to get back there, is also a saddlebag. So there's a lot of saddlebags, a lot of storage, and a comfortable sleeping bed for Lucy. So now we're at the back of Velabon, and the first thing I want to point out is the step ups. So the step here, you don't normally you see the entire bumper going across, but I just really love the design of these. The step is a little wider, makes it easier to get in and out, and it's just different than anything else, because that's what it's all about, is being different in my book. And then in the back, this has the puppy package, which has additional heat transfer resistance and additional padding. So if Lucy decides to come back here and take a nap, which she won't, because she wants to be in the second row or the front seat, but still, it's got additional padding to keep her safe. So let's move to the back door. The back door has additional insulation to keep less heat coming in, and then it has additional padding. Even the handle's been padded too. So this is Velabon, and if you have any questions, just send us a message. And if you're ready to take an adventure and take your puppy with you, we could build one like this for you. But right now, we're just gonna go drive.